Alright, so this one's going to be a recap video on Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. Um, I had to start off by saying I only watched the main event and the co-main event. I didn't watch the one that happened before that. Um, I have to make a shout out to, I think it's Wrestling Days YouTube channel, because while I was watching the UFC fight night, when that was, since they were both on at pretty much the same time, I was watching that, and then I was listening to his fight companion on it. And by the way, you should check out his channel. I think what he's doing is pretty cool. I like that he does fight companions. I That's something I want to do in the future too, especially for this channel. But yeah, I mean, I forget the names of the two fighters. But from what I heard, it was a dominant performance for one guy who was an experienced guy. But it went the distance, and but yeah, I didn't see that one. I was most interested in the main and co-main. So talking about the main event, I'm glad to see that both guys against each other, they did pretty well. It was a competitive fight. It was a pretty competitive fight, and I'm with everyone else. I think Tyson did enough to win the fight, but we all knew. I mean, there's really no reason to get mad. Um, Obviously, neither Tyson or Jones were mad, but there's really no reason to get mad because, I mean, it was considered an exhibition. We would all, and I know you've heard it, you know, watching predictions on that fight from the get go, that there would probably be no. We knew there wasn't going to be a scoring. If anything, it was probably going to be considered a draw, especially if it went the distance, and we would all know who the winner was going to be. We would all know for sure. We would all know, regardless of whatever scoring was there, even though there was unofficial scoring is all we got. But we all know Tyson. He won the fight. He landed more shots. Um, Roy knew what he was up against. He knew he was up against an aggressive, an aggressive fighter, an aggressive puncher. You know, and Tyson caught him a couple of times to the head, but he caught him on the end of shots. Roy rolled with a lot of them. Obviously, it was the body work. The body work and the fact that Roy had to work more than anybody he had to work more than Tyson in the fight. Constantly on the back foot, constantly having to dip out. Roy showed a little bit of both guys showed a little bit of who they were in their prime. They showed that their body, I mean, clearly they're not the same fighters, but they still, like Teddy Atlas said about Anderson Silva, they're not the same lions, but in their minds and hearts, they're still, they were still the same. That still shined through a little, It was a great fight to watch. It was great to see Roy at. It was great to see him act like a champion when the fight wasn't going. The later rounds weren't going too well for him, and then, he still pushed through. So that was a great fight. And I like where Tyson's head is at. I was kind of afraid that, his ego, like he said on JRE and stuff, that was all ego that got him as high to those heights that he was in his prime. And I was afraid that that would consume him, and then that he would ultimately be, his ego would lead him to a path of destruction, of his own, of self-destruction in competition. And I'm, from hearing the post-fight interview, it sounds like, I mean, it seemed, I would say he's in a great place, and this is for fun. This is for more. I mean, it was great to hear him say, this wasn't about me. This wasn't about, I'm this wasn't about fighting for myself necessarily. It was about fighting for humanity. Some of those things that Teddy Atlas always talked about, that was more important than being the best at something, is being the best human being for your fellow man that you can be. And Logan, I get those guys, I get those brothers' names confused. Jake Paul, you know, he had a great win. Um, Even though he faced someone, a beginner at this thing, the NBA player Nate, I forget his last name. I don't follow NBA figures, but he just wasn't ready for that. He wasn't ready for that competition. He should have, but you know, it takes, to get in the ring, to get in a competitive combat sport. It takes a lot for an individual to do that, to do what he did, even though it didn't work out for him. You know, he he can see that if he wants to continue doing it, he's got to commit to it. If not, at least he got the experience, I guess. Maybe he learned so. Hopefully, he learned something about himself there. But you know, that the call out by Jake Paul. I never saw the interview, him calling out Connor. Um, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that at all. Boxing, MMA, Muay Thai, however, I just don't want to see that. Um, I think what he's doing is, I mean, I'd like to see. I saw this video from a guy that I watched, Jesse on Fire. He said he'd rather see him fight Dylan Dennis, and I would agree with that. I'd rather see them box. I'd rather see him box Dylan Dennis than Conor McGregor. I think that would be a more competitive fight. Uh, you know, guys improving. And the casuals, no matter if you don't like the Paul brothers, it doesn't matter what you think about them. This guy's improving for sure, and I like what he's doing. With, as long as he doesn't make a run as a professional, I mean, like a real run as a true professional, I don't see him getting too far. He's years and years behind in experience and stuff. So, but doing these events like this, finding people with some names, and being on cards with legends, that's a money machine there for this guy. So, I like, as far as that, I like that. And that's all I got to say on that. Let me know what you think in the comments below about the whole event. And if you liked the video, hit that like. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you.